and welcome to Vintage NBA. I'm Robin Roberts. This week we profile one of the greatest centers of all time, Bill Walton. During his stellar career in college and the NBA, Bill was considered the consummate team player. But off the court, he was always a true individual. And we'll look at him as both a player and a person, including his anti-war days back in the early 70s. But by 1986, Bill had cut his hair, gotten rid of the tie-dyed shirts, and was helping the Celtics win the NBA title. Watching him on TV was a teenage fan from Connecticut named Vin Baker. Vin went on to become an NBA All-Star, and this week, he's in the chair.
Bill Walton, named the NBA Most Valuable Player. When he came out,
Bill Walton's a great player. I knew some of the things. I knew the championship, the MVP season.
Lucas with a steal, Walton!
But the whole, his whole lifestyle, I didn't know at all. This is me. This is me. This is a tremendous individual. He was very different. He transcended, went past basketball.
While neither Walton or Scott answered any questions at a news conference this week, they did agree to an interview with reporter Ted Dawson.
I can understand with Bill, some of the values he had were important at that time. It's definitely kind of the same. I mean, I grew up in a Baptist church household. My parents always encouraged me to play basketball, but my parents were more into my soul and more into, being religious and more into me going to Sunday school and going to church, and that was important to me, really basically more important to me than basketball was at that point. So he probably grew up believing how important his values were, and when he got to the NBA, he didn't let that stop him. But, Bill, you can see with the hair, and he's got the headband going. He was doing his thing back then. Yeah, this is probably what Bill was wearing when he was leaving the locker room after most of his championship season and his MVP, or just being out in public. This is probably what Bill was wearing right here. And this was hot, though. This was a hot shirt. So Bill was pretty much into it. He was pretty much into it. I don't know, trucking, Mama Tried, Bertha, Cumberland Blues. I find it hard to believe that he was on that Portland plane passing these around like, take a listen to Sugar Magnolia.
This Utah team is also the best team the Bulls have ever faced in the finals.
Allen Iverson is not only the best at what he does, he's the only one.
To see Bill how he is on television right now, it's almost amazing. It's two different people.
I really don't have nothing to say.
It's kind of like, it reminds me, I'm a big boxing fan, it reminds me of George Foreman after he lost to Ali. And to see him today and to see Bill Walton today, it's a tremendous comparison, because you never know the ups and downs that these people had in their careers. But, of course, being from New England, I know he came to Boston and won a championship there.
What a play by Bill Walton!
Every shot he made, it was almost like it was in his set when he was in his 77 season. He was so excited playing with Bird and playing with McHale, so I could see. And I remember this. I remember right here how excited he was when they were winning that championship. That sticks out of my mind, especially being from New England. That sticks out of my mind.
All right!
And you can see how happy he was and how ecstatic he was. It's kind of like something that peaked his career and said, here I am. I'm going to, kind of ride out into the sunset.
Vin remembers Walton primarily as a Celtic because he was just 5 years old when Bill was leading the Trailblazers to the 1977 title. So he never got a chance to see him at his best. But the fans in Portland certainly did. And what they saw was one of the greatest big men of all time, not to mention one of the game's most intriguing personalities. Coming up, we'll take a trip back to the 70s, the heyday of Bill Walton.
I'm going to keep struggling for freedom and a more, I'm a more decent and humane life for everybody.
It was a very competitive atmosphere. I thought that when he was healthy, he was definitely one of the great centers to play in the game.
He is putting on a show that is second to none, I'll tell you.
When Bill Walton reflects on his career, he He might think of a lyric from his favorite group, the Grateful Dead. What a long, strange trip it's been. Bill did win championships, MVP awards, and all-star honors, yet could have achieved much more had he only been able to stay healthy. Still, he earned a place among the game's top centers. But he was also famous for being left of center politically. How do you sum up Bill Walton? His coach with the Portland Trail Blazers, Jack Ramsey, described him this way.
I've never coached a better player, I've never coached a better competitor, and I've never coached a better person than Bill Walton.
Growing up, I was a very shy and very reserved youngster.
Bill.
Basketball was a sanctuary for me. It became my religion, and the gym was my church.
Bill Walton took his devotion to the game to UCLA, where he led the Bruins to 3 national titles. He became a college basketball legend and the prize pick of the NBA.
On March 27, 1974, a fateful choice of the coin flip gave Portland the first draft choice.
It's tails. Tails. Portland has...
Walton instantly revitalized the struggling Portland Trail Blazers, and he showed the game's top centers that he was a force to be reckoned with.
Bill Walton loved the game of basketball. He was the essence of team play. He was a fierce competitor who wanted to win and would do whatever he had to do to win. First of all, he knew he could score.
Here's Walton looking over that shoulder. There's a shot clock on the turnaround.
And he knew he was a great passer. He was also a very good shot blocker, an excellent rebounder. I can still visualize in my mind him going up high to get a defensive rebound, turning while he was in the air, outletting the ball to a perimeter player to start the fast break.
But for all his talent, Walton was also plagued by constant injuries. That, along with his unconventional lifestyle and political activism, made him a controversial figure during his early years in the NBA.
I think he was carrying too much stuff early on in a way that he was going to be this liberal, radical, counterculture hero, and that was very genuine with him.
I'm going to keep struggling for freedom and a more, a more decent and humane life for everybody.
I like Bill. He did his own thing, and he was all back to natural and all of that. And he had all this hair on him, and I didn't want to rub up against him because he was going to be funky leaving that game.
It was just his nature. It's like everyone has to have an outlet. And, he still listens to Grateful Dead even when he got his hair cut. But come game time, he was a totally different person.
As the '77 season began, Bill wanted to shift the focus back to basketball and turn Portland into a winner.
Coach Wooden always told us that he'd rather have a team yet that was inexperienced but have a lot of talent rather than an experienced team with no talent. And so I'm not saying that last year's team had no talent, but I think we have more talent this year.
Referee underneath now. Walton with a good move pass.
When he came out of UCLA, a lot of people questioned whether Bill could have the stamina to play in the NBA. This season, not only did he prove that, he proved he was one of the very best.
The Blazers not only reached the playoffs for the first time, they made it all the way to the NBA Finals against the powerful Philadelphia 76ers.
91-87, 9:30 to go. Walton on the lob. Oh, he's got it in! Bill Walton got it in! Torczyk and Gross. What a sequence for the Blazers! Walton again, twice in the basket.
Portland fans were in a frenzy as the Blazers came from 2 games down to take the next 3, and they were poised to wrap up the title in Game 6.
5 seconds to go. Portland leading 109 to 107. 3 will inbound. Here we go. The inbound of McGinnis. Drive, stop, pump, shoot, short, no good, and the game is over! The Portland Trail Blazers have won the World Championship. They are number 1.
What made it so extra special was the fans who would come out in such numbers and support us and drive us and push us.
Rip City!
just want to make sure that the guy that took my bike, I started on my bike today sometime. I want to make sure that guy brings it back to me. I mean, it's like it's the only bike I have.
Walton followed up the '77 triumph by winning the next season's MVP award, despite playing only 58 games due to a foot injury. This marked the start of an 8-year odyssey in which he was constantly in and out of the game.
My pro basketball career was one of frustration and disappointment. No one missed more basketball in the history of the NBA than I did. I missed more than 9.5 full seasons, but the times I was able to play, I was able to be part of some very special teams.
In 1986, Walton had one last moment of glory as the league's Sixth Man of the Year on the Boston Celtics championship team.
Coming to Boston was something that brought joy back into basketball for me.
They swing it around to Walton on the right side, off the glass, and Bill Walton makes it a 28-point lead.
The only thing I ever wanted to do was be a basketball player in the NBA. Growing up in a non-athletic family where my parents were interested in music and literature and education and art, I can remember when I was in 7th grade and my parents would give up their weekends to drive me to these stupid little basketball games that I was so interested in playing in. And I was sitting there and I looked over at my dad and he's driving along and I said, Dad, one day I'm gonna win the MVP in the NBA. And for winning that, you get a brand new car. I'm going to give you that car, Dad. And my dad looked back at me and said, what's the NBA? And my dad still has that car. I'm very proud of that.
Bill also gave his dad his 2 NBA championship rings. As for the car, Walton was able to get by without it because he still had his trusty bicycle. Now, if you're wondering about the bike he lost at the championship parade, well, it was eventually returned to him. Just thought you'd like to know that. And as we take a break, let's go back to Bill's rookie season, 1974. Here's a look at what was making headlines around the country. Welcome back, everyone, to Vintage NBA. Do you dig my threads? All I need are little bell bottoms. I think it's pretty groovy, though. So where were you in the early 70s? Maybe you weren't even born yet. But if you're old enough to remember, you know it was a turbulent time in America. And in many ways, the times were reflected by Bill Walton. Let's head back to 1973 on NBA.com. And that year, Bill led UCLA to the NCAA title by shooting a record 21 of 22 from the field. But basketball wasn't the only thing on his mind. Like many other students, he was protesting the Vietnam War. For over a decade, the United States had become embroiled in the conflict in Vietnam. And at home, Americans had become increasingly divided. There were anti-war demonstrations all over the country, including the nation's capital. College campuses in particular were a hotbed of protest, and one of them was UCLA, where among the demonstrators was Bill Walton. Now, Bill would interrupt classes to give his views on Vietnam. He used UCLA team stationery to write a letter to President Richard Nixon protesting his Vietnam policy and demanding his resignation. By August of '74, Nixon had decided to step down.
I have never been a quitter. To leave office before my term is completed is abhorrent to every instinct in my body. But as president, I must put the interests of America first. Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
With America's 2 crises, the Watergate scandal and the Vietnam War, disenchantment was the emotion of the day in the early 70s. The hippie movement was trying to change society, and Walton was right in the middle of that. He insisted the Trailblazers insert a clause in his contract, stating that he could grow his hair as long as he wanted. Once they did, he was ready to play.
Now, I like playing basketball, and I'm going to continue to play basketball because I like the game, regardless of the fact they pay me money or not.
Bill was the ultimate nonconformist, exploring vegetarianism and spirituality like many of his peers. It was a time of experimentation with music at its core. Back then, no group had a more devoted following than the Grateful Dead. And among their many fans was Walton, who figures he saw them in concert at least 500 times. Bill felt so connected to the Dead that he could see a parallel between his life and theirs.
I lived to play basketball. The teamwork, the sacrifice, the commitment, the joy, the camaraderie, the relationship with the fans. It's just like the relationship between the Grateful Dead and their fans, the Deadheads.
While music may have had the Deadheads, basketball in Portland had the Blazer Maniacs, and Walton was their Jerry Garcia, especially in 1977 when he led the Trailblazers to their first NBA championship. Throughout the city, fans celebrated the team's stunning victory.
It's the greatest in the world! We have done it! Fantastic! I can't believe it!
Oh, it was wonderful. Just marvelous.
Oh, super duper! Great game, yeah!
Super duper? Well, it was 1977. I'm just reminded by what I'm wearing. As for Bill Walton, he has changed with the times. By the early 80s, he was eating meat again. The long red hair he wore in a ponytail is a lot shorter now and has a touch of gray. The tie-dyed shirts have given way to jackets and ties, at least when he's on the air as a basketball commentator. But some things haven't changed. He's still a fan of the Dead, still a man of many interests, and his favorite subject is still basketball. His favorite year will always be 1977. Up next, we'll take you back to Bill's greatest moment, Game 6 of the '77 Finals, when he and the Blazers capped off their Cinderella season. In the spring of 1977, the city of Portland was gripped by a serious case of Blazer mania, and it came on practically overnight as the Trailblazers rolled through the playoffs. In the finals, they were clear underdogs against Dr. J and the Sixers. But after losing the first 2 games, Portland came back to win the next 3. Which brings us to this week's Airwave Archive. June 5th, 1977, Game 6 of the finals. Bill Walton and the Blazers are looking to close it out, and they've grabbed a 10-point lead in the second quarter. Let's go to Brent Musburger and Rick Barry.
10-point run at 50-40 and 5:06 left. They come at you so quickly, and they are so lethal when they get it working. Up comes the doctor who responds. Back to 8 come the 76ers. Collins, Bibby, McGinnis, Catchings, and Irving on the floor for Shue. McGinnis staying with Lucas. Catchings out on Walton. Here's the pass to Davis, who came up on Collins and got it down. The defense was there. Good effort by Davis. McGinnis signals. He's on the weak side. Is Collins trying to get something going? Walton is there on the double team defensively. Ball goes to Portland.
So the big factor, I think, right now for Philadelphia is that they're only getting the scoring from Irving and McGinnis. Doug Collins is not getting any points for them.
And Catchings using muscle. They go to the lob behind him on Walton, who drew the foul and hit the field goal. And I want to tell you, Harvey Catchings did everything but tackling that time.
Let's watch the play here. There's the lob pass by Gross. Catchings was fronting him. The weak side help. The man on the other side of the floor, McGinnis, is a little late getting there. Walton catches the ball. You see the reaction from Bill Walton. There's another angle of it. There's the pass. You see George is a little late getting there. There's the foul by George. Basket by Bill. That's where weak side defense is so important.
Bill Walton.
Look at his eyes, Brent.
He has come to play, as he has all playoff long. As a matter of fact, all season long. Remember, the Blazers were 5-12 this year in the 17 games that he missed. Here's Irving giving it up to Jones, who came into the basket. No basket. Offensive foul is called. That's 4 fouls on Caldwell Jones.
Here, we'll take a look at it again. Julius makes the nice pass. There's the play. Looked like Lionel Hollins may have moved under after the man had committed himself. Catchings. Questionable.
A 13-point Blazer lead. Gross gets away, but McGinnis comes over on him. Here is Davis. Collins sticks out. Now it's Hollins. Jones playing with those 4 fouls. With 5 seconds on the shot clock, Hollins missed outside. McGinnis and Lucas went for it. There was a whistle. Lucas on the loose ball foul, and the ball goes over to Philadelphia. 2 fouls on Maurice.
3 team fouls. Brent. Sixers are in the bonus again. So both quarters, Philadelphia in the bonus. Portland wasn't.
Three forwards on the floor as Joe Bryant replaces Caldwell Jones. It'll be Bryant, McGinnis, and Irving. And Walton takes McGinnis in this situation. McGinnis outside. Davis off. Loose ball foul is the call. Bryant was coming across on him.
Here's where that penalty situation can hurt you so desperately, so badly, I mean, because with 3:21 to go, a little foul like that would have just been a ball out of bounds. And when you're trailing by 13 points, those fouls can really hurt in this situation. But again, Brent, the last shots again coming from the outside, that all of a sudden Portland's just locked that middle up. They're just not letting them come in there.
Live at halftime, slam dunk finals. Larry McNeil and Darnell Hillman. Lloyd Free watching from Gene Shue's bench. We'll also have a live report from the Kemper Open in the final round coming up immediately after this game. In Charlotte, North Carolina, 57-42. 3:18 left in the first half. That run of 10 busted it open. Irving up on Gross. McGinnis with an offense, and Walton rejected it. McGinnis and Walton crashed to the floor. Both are fine. Here is Davis again. It was Walton at that defensive end.
Davis missed the wide open man, Lionel Hollins, to his left that time. He forced up a tough shot.
Game 6 with Portland leading 3 victories, 2, and Joe Bryant outside. Bryant brought some enthusiasm when he came into Game 5 late in the spectrum. 57-44, 13-point difference. 2 minutes and 40 seconds left first half. Walton with the signal. He'll be the wheel horse. Davis goes his side, and now he pops out to handle it. Looks for the cutter. Not good movement that time. Gross from the corner. Here's Davis on the other side. Bibby came in behind and hooked him and fouled him.
So again, that penalty situation plaguing the Sixers. They get to take a tough shot. The ball comes off. They can't get that out, that defensive rebound. As you see the play right there, with Bibby coming in, picking up the foul. Davis to the line. 1 plus the penalty for 2.
Here's Johnny Davis, who was forced into Jack Ramsey's starting lineup back in the Denver series when Dave Twardzik injured an ankle. He stayed there as the Blazers swept away Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the Los Angeles Lakers. Then the finals began. Twardzik returned and Davis has remained the starter. 59-44, and it has given Jack Ramsey a potent weapon off the bench. Inside pass is a good one from Bryant to Irving.
That's the type of plays that they need to get. Get inside, get those easy baskets, stop shooting from the outside.
Walton and McGinnis came out and stole it. McGinnis defended him, Walton coming back, and George laid it in. Walton not going for the foul, an 11-point Portland lead. Content to trail him home that time, and 1:55 left in the first. McGinnis waits now. He's giving up a lot of inches to Bill. Here's Walton rolling off. McGinnis has switched out. No one picked him up from the weak side.
The gamble by Julius Irving hurt them that time.
Julius roaring to the basket, came up in Walton's face, and Walton said, had to be offense.
That Julius is unbelievable in a wide-open situation. I have never seen anybody be able to do the things that he could do. Here we go again. Gross takes a shot at him. Walton goes up. Just look at this. Walton was complaining about his left hand. As you see, he hit him in the head with the ball. Here we go again with the steal. Now let's just watch the doctor operate. There he goes. Takes off, up and over.
Bill has had to watch that dunk way too many times in the highlight films. But it was fitting that Portland and Philly met in the finals, as they took similar roads to get there. Just 3 years earlier, the same two teams had the worst records in the league. That's when they met for the coin toss to see who would get the top draft pick. Portland won it, and Bill Walton became a trailblazer. As we go to break, here's something else to ponder, especially if you've ever been a deadhead.
It's 67-59.
Philadelphia doing what they have to do. Jump on them early, get back in this game.
Lucas driving. Walton regains it. 24 minutes for a championship for Portland.
Portland getting inside.
McGinnis up into Lucas. Offensive foul is the call.
Take the play right here. Here's George, makes the dribble, crossed over to the left. Now watch now. He will initiate the contact with this move right here. The next step, jumps into Maurice Lucas.
2 fouls on McGinnis. Richie Powers and Gene Shue arguing, Shue being restrained. Joe Bryant talking to him. Richie walks away. Now at the other side, Ramsey is being yanked back by O'Donnell. Down in his familiar spot. You know those slacks Jack Ramsey wearing today? Those are the kind that you could throw in a shower and not worry about how they would come out. That's how confident this franchise is today. They dressed accordingly. Collins is there with Davis. Walton out. Lucas was down underneath.
Maurice tried to get off the floor by scooting along the ground when he was laying down in the 3-second area, but even if you go off the floor, if you're still inside that lane area, it counts as 3 seconds. You must go out to the perimeter, to the outside of the lane.
Lucas pointing to the wet spot where he went down, Rick. Jeff wiping it up. Pressure by Davis on Bibby. A 10-point Portland lead. Jones picks off Bibby's man and tries to get him behind Walton, and Walton goes and seals. Irving's there on the challenge against Walton. Out of bounds, it'll go to Portland.
Doctor got hit in the mouth on that play. He's looking for the foul, but boy, there's a lot of aggressiveness being taking place out here right now, and the official's going to have to jump on things so they don't get out of hand.
Here's Hollins. Puts up the left-hander, which is off, and then runs it down the corner.
He knew he missed that when he went right after it.
Cross to Walton. Davis with a screen for Bill. The smallest man gives the biggest man on the Portland team the pick, and it's 2 points for the Blazers, 71-59 and 9-29. Shades of Green Bay, Wisconsin in 1961 when Vince Lombardi and a football team stocked the championship in a small town.
Well, there's a play that happens so often in the game of basketball. You allow the man to come from the weak side of the floor. That's the side opposite of where the ball is. We see it here. And beat your man to the basketball. McGinnis beats Lucas over. Goes up for the shot. Lucas goes up, fouls him on the arm. Your defense in this situation must play between the ball and the man and not allow him to beat you to the ball.
After the 5th game in Philadelphia, the Portland Trail Blazers wound their way home and finally got here at 4:30 in the morning. 4,500 fans had waited up all night to greet them at the airport. The plane was an hour late because it was forced to land in Billings, Montana and take on a new load of fuel, and those fans stayed right there. There was not a bottle of beer or a milkshake to be had at that airport the next morning. 9 minutes and 18 seconds left, quarter number 3. A 10-point difference. Philadelphia must win to force game number 7 Wednesday night in the Spectrum. Right after this 6th game, the final round of the Kemper Open from Charlotte, North Carolina. Walton into Hollins, who got McGinnis up in the air but missed the shot. And they stay with it. The attendance I am handed is 12,951. There are at least 3,000 others who are unaccounted for carrying press cameras. Bibby in and out. Walton looks outlet, leads to Davis. I don't think he can run this one down.
Ball is a little bit too far to the sideline. Even with the speed Davis had, he could not get to it quick enough.
They have rallied around the basketball team in Portland, Oregon, as Collins comes into Walton and offensive foul is called.
So Doug Collins still having his difficulty. Let's watch his left arm here because that's what the foul is called for. Watch that left arm. There it is. You see him swinging that left arm to the left.
12-point lead. Crisis time nearing for the 76ers. Off they come. Here's Bibby. It's 3-on-1. McGinnis comes to the basket strongly with his best offensive showing. 21 points in this 6th game. Gross open.
Excellent pass by Lucas. Defensive breakdown again by Philadelphia. Just not watching man-ball relationship.
Lucas there with McGinnis, and it's Collins. Trying to shoot his way out of this slump. Here's Davis back quickly. Two guards having a fine game for Jack Ramsey offensively. Walton gets Jones up, turns around. Gross regains it, and here's Walton. They bring it in through the center on that motion. Looks Cutter, it's Lucas in behind McGinnis.
Again, this time it was Maurice Lucas coming from the weak side. He just pulled the same thing George did to him.
8 points for Lucas. Goes with the doctor, double team Walton, so they go to Jones, who had to be open with Walton out there helping on Irving. 12-point lead by Portland.
Little difference in the second half, Brent. Both teams only shooting 30-some-odd% so far in the third quarter.
McGinnis there with Lucas. Double team with Irving. Davis. McGinnis with position. Lucas came in behind him, knocked it out of bounds. Steve Mix will check in for Gene Shue.
And with a timeout on the floor, Sixers are still in contact. They have not let the Blazers come out and jump off early in the third quarter like they've done in the last 3 ball games. They're right in there. They have a chance.
That 77 championship series between Portland and Philadelphia was a perfect contrast in all the different elements in society and culture that were going on. The individualism, the showmanship of the 76ers, and the quiet, reserved teamwork of the Portland Trailblazers.
That Portland was just beginning to surface and ascend and know how good it was. And it was on an ascent, and the time was on its side.
And time is certainly on the Blazers' side in Game 6 of the 77 finals. They've been leading since the second quarter, and they're still up by 7 with less than 2 minutes left. Memorial Coliseum and the entire state of Oregon are ready to erupt as the Blazers close in on their first championship. But the Sixers are trying to make one last run, led by George McGinnis and Dr. J. Julius Irving. Let's go back to Portland for the final moments.
Philadelphia must make up 7 in 152, and again it's free. They double team him, and here's Irving up over Gross. It is 5 with 146. Pressure in the backcourt. Double team the Bull. There's got to be all kinds of white jerseys and making it up court.
That's smart. That's smart by Lucas. The clock is their biggest ally, Brent. They do not need to score. They can just hold that ball out there right now.
Leading by 5 with 1.5 minutes. They bring the shot clock down. Watch it when it gets inside 5. There it is. They need it. Holland spotted it. Off to Walton. Walton comes up. McGinnis comes in behind him. No foul. 108, 103, and 120. Free outside. It's spun out. And Hollins with 114 and a 5-point lead. They double team it. Here it is to Lucas at the wing. Goes back to Hollins. Quickly now to Gross, who tapped it to the open man, Lucas. Watch the shot clock. Game clock down toward 1 minute. They're on their feet here in the Memorial Coliseum. They can sense it now. Their first year in the playoffs. And they're inside of a minute for a championship. Lucas is off. Down now comes the doctor. There was a whistle. So hard to hear whistles in this arena now. Maurice Lucas.
Philly got a big break right there, Brent.
There's actually 2 fouls on Gross.
Maurice Lucas took a jump shot from the side. He did not see Lionel Hollins cutting down the middle. He was wide open. Would have had a layup that would have iced this game. As it is with that foul by Gross, there's a chance now to cut this lead down to 3 points with 51 seconds to go, and that is a lot of time.
Dunleavy reports in. Gene Shue telling him to tell everybody no fouls. They're down by 5 with 51 seconds.
And so again, Brent, Jack Ramsey electing to bring in Dave Porzic, the man that he feels to do whatever is necessary depending upon the situation. He wants them in there to settle them down.
Steve Jones has moved back here to courtside, and Steve, this is your hometown, and it's about to go crazy.
Oh, they're all getting ready to go bananas, but again, the game is not over until the gun has gone off, and Philadelphia still has a chance. Portland has to move the ball and handle themselves a little bit better in this pressure situation.
3-point difference right now, Steve. Down toward 40 seconds. Porzic holding it up. Gross, Walton there, and they play catch. Shot clock down inside 10. Watch the game clock. A 3-point difference. 108-105. Sportsick. And Lucas cleaned it up with 28 seconds.
That is the big rebound of the game right there.
T. Powers with a whistle.
If Philly had gotten that rebound, Brent, they had a chance to make it a one-point game. Anything could have happened. Let's watch the play. Sportsick takes the shot. Got a good shot from the corner. Collins with good defense. Ball comes off. Maurice Lucas. The ball just happened to take a good bounce because McGinnis had inside position.
Lucas at the free throw line. 27 seconds. After 7 years of frustration for this franchise, they are about to win a world championship. And for Bill Walton, 3 years and 200 miles to take. Sport Magazine gives away a car to the most valuable player. We pick the most valuable player. There is no question in my mind. It is the big redhead, Bill Walton, who is going to get both honors. He'll probably take a camper van for the summer. He has been some force throughout the playoffs. 109-105, and listen to the crowd. Portland, Oregon, just 27 seconds away. The whole state of Oregon closing in on its first professional championship. Everybody will count the 27 seconds down. The magnificent Julius Erving goes off now to Joe Bryant. Walton rejects another one. Outside, McGinnis hits a field goal.
They're right there, Brent. Good defense. They make a steal. They could get back. Wisely, they call timeout to get the ball at half court.
Here we come.
Philadelphia's gotten himself within striking range, even though there's only 18 seconds to go. They will come in. They will pressure all over the floor. Try to come up with the steal, hopefully to go down and score a basket and tie this game. If they cannot make the steal, when the clock gets down to somewhere around 6 seconds or 5 seconds, they more than likely will have to gamble and hopefully foul someone who is not a real good free throw shooter and hope that he misses at the free throw line.
18 seconds. A 2-point Portland lead for the Trailblazers. Sportsick, Lucas, Walton, Gross, and Davis. For Philadelphia, Collins, Bryant, Dunleavy, McGinnis, and Irving. McGinnis has erupted in Game 6 for 28. And the Doctor, magnificent as usual, has scored 40 points in this game.
Brent, I can remember some of those series with the Celtics and the Lakers when an inbounds pass was stolen by Havlicek. He went down, scored, tied the ball game. Looked like the Lakers had it won.
Here is Gross, takes the inbound pass, and McGinnis is over there to tie him up. Jump ball in Portland. A jump ball with 16 seconds. George McGinnis, mired in a slump, has given the 76ers one last shot with 16. And a reminder that Kemper open next, but don't go away from this. Suddenly, Gene Shue and the 76ers are breathing. They hang tough. It'll be Gross and McGinnis, 109-107. Philadelphia needing a break off the tap. It goes to free. They can tie it. Philadelphia can tie it. Turnout the Doctor outside. Off iron. Free with a rebound. 7. Gross is over there on him. Goes back now. You got the signal to Philadelphia. The ball went out of bounds in 5 seconds. 109-107. Philadelphia with possession. They had their chances that time.
Maurice Lucas, I don't know where he's playing right now. If they take the ball in bounds, George McGinnis is wide open. I don't know what he's doing.
Here's McGinnis. Lucas comes out. McGinnis for the tie. It's off. Irving is there. It's over. Portland has won the championship. 109-107. They've gone wild in Portland. The Portland Trailblazers, their first year in the NBA playoffs. The baskets are down. The one on my left, Walton has had the jersey stripped off him. Walton and the Trailblazers trying to battle through the crowd to the locker room. A world championship for the Blazers. But the 76ers came right down to the end and would not quit it this game. And so for Steve Jones and Rick Barry, this is Brent Musburger saying so long from Portland, Oregon, where they've gone wild. 109-107, the Blazers win the championship.
We know Bill got his bicycle back, but what happened to his jersey that he tossed into the crowd? Well, inquiring minds want to know, maybe this is it. We may never know for sure, one of life's little mysteries. But we do know that Jack Ramsey's plaid pants have been permanently retired. Anyway, the Blazers pulled off one of the biggest upsets in finals history. And the series MVP, no surprise there, Bill Walton. How about his stat line from Game 6? 20 points, 23 rebounds, 8 block shots, and 7 assists. It shows you just how versatile a player he was. And up next, we'll look at some all-around centers who have carried on his legacy. Welcome back, everyone, to Vintage NBA. And whether it was scoring, passing, rebounding, or shot blocking, there was nothing Bill Walton couldn't do on a basketball court. That versatility is part of his legacy, one that's shared by some of the other great all-around centers. Wes Unseld was a force at both ends of the floor. Like Walton, he was a master of the quick outlet pass that ignited the fast break. And check out that old Bullet uniform. Wilt Chamberlain was a dominating scorer, but in 1968 he wanted to improve his passing, so he led the league in assists. The Phoenix Suns' Alvin Adams was another big man who could dish off some slick passes. And so was the Lakers' Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who showed that Magic Johnson was the only one who could throw a no-look pass. But who are some of today's most versatile centers?
He's not one of those guys where he gets the ball in the post and it's just a black hole. When he gets in the post, he can score it and he can shoot from out top. And, you know, he has so many guys working around him, cutting, and he finds them all the time, even if his back is turned.
Backflip, what a pass, unbelievable.
Big man with the most skills on the box has to be Hakeem Olajuwon by far.
It's about as automatic as Kareem's skyhook.
Well, when he gets his jump hook working, everything else falls in line.
Alonzo Mourning doing a great job. You can't forget about him. Could score, block shots, passing the ball much better.
Oh, my, what a block by Mourning. He saved the short score.
I think if anybody can be close to Bill Walton, he's not a center, but like Chris Webber's game, because you know, he's a very versatile player. He can give you a quadruple double out there.
Webber with the ball fake behind the back. What a pass by Chris Webber.
Well, the composure of Tim Duncan is scaring everybody in this league right now. He's a young player that plays like a 10-year veteran. He's a young player that makes the game very simple and basic and easy. And those are things that Bill Walton did.
Well, it's one thing to have skills like Bill Walton, but to have the entire package, you would also need a headband, a fashion accessory that Bill helped introduce in the NBA. Walton had headbands of all shapes and sizes to keep his long locks in place, but they were also worn by players with very little hair or none at all, like Donald Slick Watts. Even Wilt Chamberlain went to the headband for a while, in Laker gold, of course. Women's basketball had its own headband wearer, Hall of Famer Nancy Lieberman-Klein. And in today's NBA, the look has been carried on by Cliff Robinson in his Trailblazer days, and also Chris Gatling, who added the touch of putting his number on it. Now, if you want to give us your take on Bill Walton and his legacy, headbands or otherwise, just drop us an email on NBA.com. And while you're there, you can check out the interview with Walton in the NBA history section, where he'll tell you what Michael Jordan and Jerry Garcia have in common. We'll be right back. You know, when you consider all his injuries, it's remarkable how much Bill Walton achieved in so little time. He played for 3 famous championship teams, UCLA, the Blazers, and the Celtics. He's the only player to win a league MVP award and 6th Man of the Year award. He was named one of the NBA's 50 greatest players and elected to the Hall of Fame. So even though the prime of his career was relatively short, it was long enough for Bill to make a lasting impact on the game. Thanks for joining us here on Vintage NBA. I'm Robin Roberts, and we'll see you next week.
pleasure to be associated with the Portland Trail Blazers, see my name added to the other great players in the history of this franchise.